Hello everyone, thank you so much for being here. Hope everyone is doing well. Hopefully you can hear me. Hello Vincina, Callie, good to see you. Bowser, Babe, thank you for being here. Hello Renee, hope you're doing well. Hello Halo, Vicky. Oh, Vicky, hey Red. I was like, oh, thanks for being here. So as you can see from the thumbnail and from the title, we're going to be covering the Chris Watts. And if you guys have been following me for a while, you guys probably all are very familiar with this case. I will give, a little bit more time for a few more people to get here to see if they're late. And then I'll go ahead and I'll just give a quick summary of the Watts case in case anybody is not familiar with it. Hey Jacqueline, good to see you. Hey Sour. Hello New Fish. So I will give a brief summary of the Watts case in case, like I said, anybody is new to my channel and they're not as familiar with it as some of my other subscribers. I do want to say, first off, thank you so much to Jenny May and Bowser and Callie and TCA for becoming members on this channel. Thank you so much for your support. So I did want to give a shout out to you guys. So thank you very much. I'm just going to mute myself real quick here and check my headphones and make sure that my sound's okay. Nobody's complaining yet, so I think we're good. But and I'm already getting notifications from YouTube saying that my stream is not set up properly. So hopefully this goes okay. Hey Stephanie, good to see you. All right, I think we're good. Tammy Lee, N.A., N.K., and Luke Epple are all listed as actors. Are you talking about on, like, what is it? Not WebMD, that's the medical website, but what is it, IMBD or whatever? I always forget what the letters are, but I did see recently someone post, Stephanie, about Nicole Kessinger being an actress, and I find that very interesting indeed. Hey, FRV. IMDb. Thank you, Matt. Hey, Matt. Good to see you. Hello, Elizabeth. Hey, Marge. So, real quick, a lot of this information, like I said, you guys, we've been covering this case for 3 years now, and I'm going to try to make it so that it's not so repetitive, but, my content is a lot different from other creators' content as far as the Watts case goes, simply because my theory is so different from everybody else's, and I actually wouldn't even call it a theory. I think I've, not to toot my own horn, but I think I've given enough evidence to support my theory in itself. Hey, Spacebound. Hey, Welsh. Oh, they're saying it's because they were in the Netflix documentary. That's still interesting to me. But yeah, so I'm going to try to not make it repetitive. But this information that I'm going to go over again today is information that I will continue to keep going over and talking about until, and hopefully I can get some new people in here over time to try to wake people up. But it's important information, and I will go over it over and over again until it sticks in your guys' head, because it's very, very important. So when I do say anything repetitive, I do apologize, but like I said, it's important information that everybody needs to know. Hey, Craig. But I will go ahead and get started because I know that some people complain about the introductions and whatnot. So, for people that can't catch the live stream and just want to catch the replay. So I'll try not to lollygag on that. All right. So if you are new to my channel, or if you're not familiar with the Chris Watts case, this case is a homicide case that happened in 2018 in Colorado. Christopher Watts, 33 years old at the time. The narrative claims killed his wife and 2 little girls, and for whatever reason, we don't know the actual motive, but the DA is claiming it was because of he wanted to start a new life with his mistress, problems in the marriage, yada yada. But he says hello, of course. I swear, it's like he knows that I'm streaming. He likes to come right up to my window as well and say hello to everybody. Hey, Molson man. So that's just like, I know that's not a great synopsis of the case, but there's a lot more to it than just that. But in a nutshell, that's pretty much what the Watts case was about. There was a ton of information also released, more than any other case, besides, of course, the Gabby Petito case, but that was released to the public compared to other true crime cases or homicide cases, which made this case very, very popular with the public. So, hey, Broken Dishes. Hey, Nikki. So there's your synopsis real quick. Again, if you're not familiar with the case, very interesting case indeed. And you will see that with this live stream. Now, my channel, I know is not for everybody, but again, if you're new here, please just try to keep an open mind and hear me out before you immediately think I'm crazy or discredit anything that I'm saying. I have done an extensive amount of research on this case, just as much as any of these other channel creators are, or anybody else that has researched this case. And it took me, I didn't just come to this conclusion with my theory right off the bat. I didn't immediately know that this case, and I guess I should probably go into detail about how, about my theory a little bit. I do believe that this case is orchestrated, and we're going to get into why with this live stream, why I come to that conclusion over these past 3 years, over 3 years now. But I didn't immediately come to my theory like right off the bat. When I heard about this case, I truly believed that it was real. I full-heartedly believe that this guy, when I saw him on the Dr. Phil show, I knew immediately he was lying. I was like, this is terrible. How could somebody like this? How could this guy just murder his innocent wife and 2 children and dump them in oil tanks at his place of work, right? So I wasn't right off the bat. I didn't just go, oh yeah, this case is fake. It's orchestrated to push multiple agendas. So I just want you guys to know that, and I mentioned that before, but it took me months to finally realize what was going on with this case, because I wasn't expecting it. And I'll get a little bit into that as well as we proceed. But I just wanted to give again a little bit of background on like what my channel is about, and as far as this case specifically goes. Hey, Datset. Apple of his eyes, love the name, very cute. Thank you for being here, everyone. And hopefully I won't, it won't be too long so I don't start to lose my voice again, because I have been a little bit under the weather. I feel much, much better now. But I was down and out for over a week at least. So hopefully my voice will be okay. So that being said, now that I have quite a few people in here, let's go ahead and get started. So I did title this live stream a Q&A, but I do want to, because I want to, if you guys have any questions, I want to try and answer your questions for you as well, instead of just hearing me ramble all the time like I usually do. So, yeah, I know the rooster buddy. I know he loves to make an appearance on my live streams. I don't know how he knows that I start streaming, but he'll crow throughout the day, but it's like, I don't know how, it's like he knows I'm streaming, and like I said, he'll come straight up to my window and just start crowing, but he won't do it all day until I start streaming. So the majority of people that follow me know who Buddy is, and so like I said, he likes to make appearances on my live streams. But So I don't remember what I was talking about before that. Bear with me, guys. You get that feeling that this case and are connected. I don't even like to say that on my channel. That's how, like, not to get off track, but that's how censored it is here on YouTube, which is one of the reasons why I've kind of stayed away, and I've been and just because of all the chaos with all these other cases, but I've been streaming a lot on DLive simply because there's not as much censorship on there. I can play other people's videos and information that I want to get out to you guys. I can play music, and it's just more free range over there. So if I do kind of like switch my words around, that's why. It's because I'm still kind of worried about, I still feel like I have to walk on eggshells when I'm here. So on YouTube, that is. So anyways, I'll just go ahead and get started. I don't remember what I was specifically saying before the rooster comment, but, oh, I remember. Okay. So I want you guys to be able to ask me questions, but first I want to go over, some of the main questions that I get a lot of times, especially from skeptics, that are like, like I said, the most main ones that come up frequently. So I want to go over those first, get those out of the way. And it might actually take up this entire stream. That's how much information it is. And I'll get the same questions in the comments. And I've even answered them several times. I should probably just like start copying and pasting them. But it's a lot of information to put in the comments. And that's why I want to go over this first. And I think that they're great questions, and they are very important to the case. So I want to go over those first, depending on the time. Then if that doesn't take too long and I don't get too off track and start my rambles, then I want to take some questions from you guys and try to answer those with the best of my ability. If not, then we can always do a part 2. I have no problem doing that. So again, thank you everyone for being here. I really appreciate it. All right. So one of the first questions, the main questions that I get, about my theory on the case is if Shanann and the girls are alive, and this will be a quick one. If Shanann and the girls are alive, where are they? Now with that question, and this is mostly the question from my skeptics, right? So it's like, okay, well, if you're trying to claim that this is fake and that this is orchestrated event and these victims are alive, then where are they? So that question to me is really, I don't feel like it's that important. And if I knew where they were, I would tell you. And I probably wouldn't be trying to convince people of my theory, right? If I knew where they are. Hey, Trianne. So I really don't think that's a relevant question as far as like, I think the more important question is, not necessarily where are they, but again, concentrate and focus more on why was this event orchestrated? Why does nothing add up? Why are there so many inconsistencies? And try to figure out those questions compared to like, oh, well, where are they? If that's your claim to your theory. So hopefully like that kind of clears everything up. The next question that I get a lot, and like I said, especially from skeptics, is why would they agree to participate in this event? So if they're actors, why would they agree to fool millions of people? Great question. If I knew that, I don't know why people do what they do. I don't know why people do bad things, but there's several reasons as to why someone might agree to do something like this. And I'm going to go over like the kind of like the victims part of it right now. So I'm going to turn the chat off for a minute because I want to show this text. So now, this was taken from a live stream that I did going over the simple anatomy. It's taken from a website and a guy who's very knowledgeable on false flags and psyops. Now, the Watts case, in my opinion, is not a false flag, and there's a difference between false flags and psyops, and I'm not going to really get into that. But the the Watts case falls more along the lines of a psyop or like a social experiment. False flags are going to be more of your terrorist attacks, your school shootings, the bigger events, 9/11. And I don't want to get too much into that either, because like I said, I did a live stream with this, all of this information, a ton of information, going over the events of false flags and psyops. But I actually got a strike on my channel for simply just going over the anatomy of these events. So that's just pretty much shows you how much like some of these platforms, they really, really don't want you talking about these events. And again, I just simply went over the anatomy of it. It's like Wikipedia can talk about them, but they're not banned. But it's like, for whatever reason, and I've gone over before, but they do not want you talking about false flags or psyops on their platforms. Hey, Pink Dahlia. Hey, Gail. Thanks for being here. So again, I'm not going to get, and that was like a really long live stream, but I don't want to risk getting another strike on my channel. But I do want to talk about, like I said, that question of why would these main characters, or why would anybody agree to be a part of these events that fool millions of people, right? And lie to millions of people. So there's going to be different, like they like to call victims. There's 4 different types of victims. There's your knowing, willing, and hopefully you guys can see this okay. Your knowing, unwilling, unknowing, willing, and unknowing, unwilling victims or participants. Okay. And like I said, this is more like the information is more from like false flags in general, like the bigger ones, but it still has the same aspect into psyops as well. So your knowing and willing victims or participants are the actors. So your main characters. So if we're gonna break it down and we're gonna like say, okay, who's the knowing and willing? And it's a lot of times with these cases, it's hard to decipher which ones are which victims are which. But with as far as the Watts case goes, it's your knowing and willing are going to be your main characters. So your Nicole Kessinger, your Chris Watts, even your Shanann Watts. And I know a lot of people aren't going to want to hear that, but I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. I'm not here to tell people what they want to hear. I'm here to get the truth out and wake people up to the deception that's going on with these main events and these high profile cases in this true crime community, and also as well as other events, tragic events, not just in true crime. So your main characters, like I said, like N.A., Shanann Watts, Chris Watts, your coders, your Graham coders, so your FBI agents, your Tammy Lees, right? Your Michael Rourke's, the DA. Those are going to be your knowing and willing participants. So they agreed full-heartedly, the families, they agreed to do this, and for whatever reason, they agreed to do it and lie to millions of people. Okay? So your next participants are going to be the knowing and unwilling, who are aware of the event before it takes place and are participating against their will. So they've either been tricked, blackmailed, or coerced into it. There's a lot of deception and a lot of corruption that goes on, and especially in like police departments and in our government. So for whatever reason, maybe they were like, if you don't do this, then you're not going to have your job at the Frederick Police Department anymore, or you're not going to be working for DA Michael Rourke anymore. You're going to lose 20 years of whatever of what you worked hard for to gain into this police department. So just any type of trickery, any coercement or being blackmailed into it. So they're like, well, I don't want to lose my job, so I'm gonna go ahead and go along with it because I've been in with this department for 20 years, and there goes like everything that I worked hard for, right? And I think that well, I'll get into that actually in a minute, but or maybe they were told that that what they were doing was beneficial to society. You just really don't know. Yeah, he was very robotic and very monotone, very actor-like. All right, whoops. All right. Here we go. Bear with me. And if I ignore chat, I apologize. I probably should have had my boyfriend Bowser come up here and maybe talk to you guys. And he's very good with he streams. He's a streamer, and he's very good with keeping up with his chat and not ignoring his chat. And you guys know I'm the worst at that. I'm getting better. But when I do these presentations or I go on my rants, it's difficult for me sometimes. So forgive me. Okay, so the next one, participant or victim, and I don't want to say victim all the time because I wouldn't really call all of them victims. Some of them are victims and some of them are participants. So, the unknowing willing are participants thrust into the main event at the time of execution and decide to fully participate, most likely unaware they're midst of an orchestrated event. So, like for instance, with like the Las Vegas shooting or any of these school shootings or like the terrorist attacks and those are like the bigger ones, obviously, where people can and have actually died. So those are the ones that are like at the concert that just are just part like just concert goers that have no idea what's going on, and those are like the unknowing, unwilling, who are just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Another example of unknowing, unwilling participants or victims would be in regards to the Watts case would be like Bella and Cece. Okay, they're children. They have no idea what's going on. They have no idea that they've been forced into this or anything because obviously they're children. So that would be another example of your unknowing, unwilling. Another question that I get, especially from skeptics, is, like I mentioned earlier, why would they agree to do something like this? And then, or they'll say, there's too many people to be involved in this cover-up, or to be involved. Somebody would speak out. But I don't think that they really take a second to think of like, not everybody is going to be like the hero or the one that is going to like save the day and be like, hey, I just want to let you guys know that I didn't want to participate in this. And this is what's going on with this event. You guys are all being fooled. Like, that's just really not the case. And they're so quick to just say, oh, someone would speak out. Someone's going to be a whistleblower. Out of all of these people involved, number one, I want to just mention that not everybody has to be in the know. So when it comes to like the Watts case, not everybody, the less the better, right? So the main ones that are going to know are going to be your knowing and willing participants that I mentioned a couple minutes ago. But the less the people know, the better, because that's less people to screw things up or mess up the entire event. But you're going to have your, like, for instance, so not everyone has to be in the know. So if you guys saw that body cam footage where they were passing out the be on the lookout flyers for Shanann and the girls, you have the police officers that were doing that in the neighborhood. Now, do I know for certain whether they are in the know or whether they're those knowing and willing? I don't know. However, I just want to give an example that those officers don't necessarily have to be in the know, right? So they're just simply doing their job. So if their superior or their sergeant or whatever says, hey, I need you to go and pass out these be on the lookout flyers for this missing woman and her children, they're going to do that because that's their job. It doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, okay, this officer and all these officers in the Department of Frederick, they all know what's going on and everybody in the DA's office knows what's going on. No, that's simply not the case. They could be simply just doing their jobs and treating it like an everyday thing that they do, or an everyday missing persons case, right? So I think that, like I said, people are so quick to just say, oh, yeah, someone would speak out, or why would anybody agree to, no one's going to agree to do this. But also, it's like, you don't know why people do what they do, but there could be also several reasons for that. As I mentioned, maybe they were coerced, maybe they were blackmailed, maybe they knew what was going on, maybe they knew that it wasn't real, or that they were, participating in this event, but maybe they didn't want to lose their job. Maybe they didn't want to be considered a crazy person or conspiracy theorist by their fellow officers, right? So again, not everybody has to be in the know. And the skeptics seem to always want to jump to me on that and say, oh, there's way too many people that would know. There's just, it would be impossible. And it's really not impossible. Okay, and so again, here's the unknowing and willing are the participants thrust into the main event who have no idea at a stage and do not want to participate. They may simply be bystanders, they may be victims, or they may actually participate against their will. It's likely there are much more unknowing, unwilling participants who are forced into the drama than one would first think. Yeah, exactly, Bowser. They're just simply doing their jobs. Exactly. They also might be afraid to speak out or play along to get along. Don't rock the boat. All factors in their complicity of silence, but fear being the strongest motivator. Fear, the best way to control people is with fear. And that's what and that's going to be one of the motives that I'm going to talk about in a little bit, as to why they do these events, why they would orchestrate them, why they would fake them. And I agree, Stephanie. And I want to just, I'd like to say that Stephanie, this is a perfect example. Stephanie Michelle has been in this true crime community. I remember from when I first started making videos, she was watching my videos, and she's been in a lot of the live chats and the streams. And I specifically remember, and I don't know why she always stood up to me, but I just remember she was so convinced, and I don't want to speak fully for her, but from what I've seen, she was entirely convinced that this Chris Watts case was 100% real, that this victim died. She was affected by it, I'm sure, by emotionally from the victims. And now she's done a complete 180 as far as her theory on the case, which is great. So, and I don't know if it was me or if she just simply saw so many inconsistencies with this case and finally started to say, okay, wait a second. This stuff is not adding up here. This narrative is not adding up. What is going on, right? So, and in TCA, she's not here. I was hoping she would be here, but she's another one where she was affected very, a lot by the deaths of these victims and by this case. And now, just from watching my channel and just, for a few months now, and just listening to what I have to say and all the symbolism and whatnot, and she's pointing out symbolism to me in these other cases. And she fully believes that the Watts case is 100% orchestrated as well. So, and that really gives me motivation to keep doing what I'm doing, to just seeing that people are actually waking up to what's going on, finally. So not to put the spotlight on you there, Stephanie, but I just wanted to mention that. Lost my spot, sorry. Okay, so again, a question I'll get, and specifically from my my skeptics, are what would be the motives behind something like this? Hey, Kelly. Hey, Emlo. What would be the motives? So all of these events start with an objective, a purpose, and a reason for being. Sometimes, as it says, the purpose is singular, but many times there are multiple purposes, which is a telltale sign of advanced planning, and hence further proof that a particular event is orchestrated. So the bigger ones, like it says, they're going to have more motives. They're going to be more complex. Hey, Melissa. So, the bigger, the more motives it's going to have. Now, all of these events are different. So depending on what kind of event it's going to be, there's going to be different motives for that event. So whether it be a school shooting, whether it be a terrorist attack, whether it be something like 9/11, it's gonna have all different motives, and the motives are gonna cater to that specific event. So you just have to kind of keep an eye out for each different event to kind of see what those motives are. Sometimes it's difficult to find the motives. Sometimes they're very clear. For instance, with school shootings, what do we see immediately after all of these school shootings or these mass shootings are happening? They're immediately pushing for gun control. That's one of the motives behind orchestrating events like that. Again, I don't want to get too much into that because I'm walking on eggshells whenever I mention anything like that. But one of the primary objectives is to eliminate an opponent, further a specific agenda like mind control or justify war. Now, again, those are the bigger ones. The more sophisticated events always seem to have multiple purposes, as I mentioned, or secondary objectives. Now, the secondary objectives are going to fall into like the Chris Watts case. But they're going to tend to be more psychological, more soft, and more subtle. These can include creating specific emotional responses such as fear, anger, and apathy. More motives that we see commonly are to, as I mentioned, pass laws and take away rights. Sway emotions. The best way to control people, as I mentioned a little bit ago, is with fear, distraction, money. Someone or several people or companies are always going to benefit substantially from these cases and financially. And Nikki, I know, and I've seen you around. I know that you are fully 100% believe that Chris Watts is in jail. I know that you have written letters to him. And just unfortunately, for me being a critical thinker, just because you write somebody in jail, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're physically in jail. I could write a letter to anybody, put a stamp on it, put the address on it like it came from that location, and say, hey, I'm in jail right now. Or I'm in the Philippines. It doesn't matter. And so for me personally, when someone tells me, hey, I write Chris Watts in prison, that's just, number one, it's all hearsay. And showing letters does not prove that someone is incarcerated in a prison. It just really doesn't. Hey, Bob. Yeah, and that's interesting too, Marge, is, and I should probably save this, but I'll forget about it, so I want to mention it because that's a good point, is, how did Sandy know, Shanann's mother, know that that Chris Watts was gonna dump oil on the girls and take them to, she's like, oh, she told the police officer, I need you to check Chris Watts' GPS or Chris's GPS, and because I feel like he's gonna dump oil on Shanann and the girls, like at his work. So either there's a lot of intuitive people in this case, and there's several other examples of that, which I won't get into, but there's either a lot of intuitive people in this case, or it's very highly suspicious and something to think about for sure. Definitely, Marge. Okay, so like I said, someone is always going to benefit financially from this case. A good example of that, think about how much money true crime brings in. I mean, and it's not even just death in general. So like all of these, like Discovery Channel, Discovery ID, Netflix made a ton of money on this case. But just murder in general, it happens all the time. It's never going to stop, right? And so these documentary channels that cover true crime or Lifetime, they're going to make a substantial amount of money. Dr. Phil, your Dr. Oz, any of those shows that talk about them and push the propaganda on them, which again I won't get into. I could like literally get off track with everything that I mentioned with this case. But so your Google, your YouTube that's making a ton of money off of these cases. There's just so many people that benefit all the time. And that's, again, one of the motives for it as well. And but Thrive, now Thrive in particular, to the Watts case, the company that Shanann Watts worked for, the MLM company, they made a huge amount of money on this case. Huge. And that's one of the reasons that I've mentioned many times as to why Shanann's Facebook account was left open to the public, right? Not only was it left open, the one reason was to sway the emotions of so many people. I mean, I don't know how many times I've heard people say, I feel like Shanann is like a sister to me. I feel like the girls, I feel like I know them. That's the purpose of these psychological operations, is to sway opinions, sway emotions, and really pull at heartstrings of the public. And by watching Shanann's videos, seeing her smile, really pulled people in. And that's one of the reasons why her Facebook account was left public. I mean, I don't know how many times people watched her videos over and over and over again, but that's how, getting the public to feel like they know Shanann and the girls, it pulls at those heartstrings even more, as to compared to the news just saying, hey, this is what happened to this family and that's it. I mean, that's why so many people were drawn to this case in general, is because of, all of the publicity, but also because of Shanann's Facebook. Another reason why Shanann's Facebook account was left open is because it was huge publicity for Thrive. Free publicity that Thrive got. With this case, I mean, how many times have people watched Shanann's video saying, selling her Thrive product, saying, I cleaned the house twice today, I took the girls to school, I gave them baths, I cooked dinner, but with all my ailments, and we know that Shanann talked about her ailments all the time, her lupus and everything that she was struggling with and all her diseases, but Thrive, it allowed her to do all these things, and she felt so much healthier, but she was being a saleswoman. I don't know how many people were following Shanann before this event happened, but if you think about the thousands and thousands of views and how many times people have watched Shanann's videos selling Thrive, it's so genius. It's just a huge publicity stunt, and the way they did it is genius. How many times they mentioned even Nicole Kessinger, even though Nicole Kessinger was talking about Thrive poorly, about how it made Chris fall asleep, it still made people curious about the product. So they're going to go and they're going to look up thrive.com, and they're going to see all these videos saying, hey, take our product and you're going to feel wonderful and great and yada, 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 and of course it's that multi-level media company that are very suspicious and are known to, have not so great products, if you're familiar with MLM companies. So thousands and thousands of people watched Shanann's videos selling Thrive. They mentioned it all the time in the interviews. Oh, Shanann worked for Thrive, and then Lavelle and all the news outlets. So you couldn't turn your head anywhere in this case without hearing about or seeing something about Thrive. So even though it's related or it's attached to like a homicide case, it doesn't matter, because it's still subconsciously, it's going to make people curious, and they're going to go and they're going to want to check out that product. I know several people that started selling Thrive because of the case. Not personally, but just that have talked about it. Also, several people that have tried it just simply because of watching Shanann's videos and hearing about the products. Hey, Chica, I'm glad you made it. 1 second, you guys. Apparently, I need to let my dog inside. Sorry about that. Okay, my apologies. Hey, Hard Eyes. Glad you made it. All right. And anybody else that came in, if I didn't say hello, I apologize. But again, I'm very bad with that. So again, like when it comes to these events, they're always going to have multiple agendas, and especially the bigger ones, the more complex ones. But these are some of the like characteristics and the motives to look out for, so you can be able to spot these events in the future. And I'm not going to go into all the characteristics today that I talk about all the time. I'll probably go over those again for another live stream. But there are characteristics that they use in all of these events that will, and in future events as well, because as long as they're working, they're not gonna change anything. And even though like they're gonna have different characteristics catered to specific events, for the most part, they follow the same like itinerary. Thank you, Broken Dishes. Did I just say dishes? Broken Dishes, so much for becoming a member. I really appreciate it. You are officially a thinker. Thank you so much. So again, there's just certain things that you can look out for in the future to be able to spot them. And once you're able to, and you know about these characteristics, they're very, very easy to spot. Okay, so another reason for these events or motive is a social experiment. They want to see how people react. They want to see what triggers people, what pulls at heartstrings, what pulls at emotions, what's going to cause distraction, what's going to just really just cause chaos with people. And that's what I think a lot of the times these, specifically these true crime events are doing. Now I put Hegelian dialectic under motive, but it's not really like a motive. It leads more into, people will say, well, how can they, another question that I get a lot is, how can they get away with something like this? Like law enforcement and the government, or whoever, I don't know who it is specifically, but whoever, well, let's just go ahead with Frederick PD or Michael Rourke. And Colorado, and specifically to the Watts case. How can they get away with something like this? And now this is something that I brought up many times on my channel, like many, many times. It's so important. It doesn't just happen in the true crime orchestrated events. It's happening all the time with these tragic high profile events or anything where the government wants to sway opinions of people or to push laws, these other motives. Hey, Lou. Yeah, try to remember to hit the bell again for sure. I know that that's a lot of issue with people, but I'm glad you made it. But this Hegelian dialectic that I talk about all the time, and I'll just do like a quick summary of it. But it's also called problem reaction solution, and I go over this a lot, like on DLive, because I'm able to play other videos on DLive where there's someone that knows more about it than I do. They're more knowledgeable in it, like David Icke and some of these other like conspiracy theorists, I guess you would call them. But the Hegelian dialectic, also known as the problem reaction solution, is what they do. It's like a theory that they use that's so how it works is they create the event, right? So, for instance, like the best example I can use that I don't like to use is like these school shootings, right? They orchestrate these school shootings in order to get a reaction from the public. So it's like, oh my God, why are these innocent people dying? While these innocent children at these schools, do something about it. So they sway the emotions of people, and when people are emotional, they don't think logically, right? They just think with their emotions. And so it's, creating the school shootings, we react and say, oh my God, please stop these people from dying. And then we turn to the ones who, for help, not realizing that those were the ones who actually created the problem in the first place. And boom, in comes your solution, which is gun control. for the majority of time with the school shootings, obviously. That's one of the major motives behind that, is to take away our rights. So that's your Hegelian dialectic, your problem, reaction, solution. Now, and I kind of got off track there, but the reason why that they can get away with events like this and lying to the public is something, is because of a law that was passed in 2012 called the Smith Modernization Act, which allowed for the mainstream media and the U.S. government to legally lie and push propaganda onto the public. Now, we're talking about anything from a small town news story about, Callie. I always use the same one. Callie being abducted by like aliens or something, right? In her hometown. Like, they could legally lie about that all the way up to like 9/11. Something that big. And they can make up these narratives. And so it was like this Smith Modernization Act, like I said, makes it legal for the mainstream media specifically and the U.S. government to legally lie to the public. So that even means making up orchestrating an entire homicide case in order to push motives and propaganda onto the public. So that's how they can legally do it. And I don't know how many times I write it in other chats, and I can probably assure you that probably no one goes and looks up the Smith Modernization Act of 2012. Like, I'm giving the information. Here it is. I'm giving you a reason as to why they can get away with something like this, right? Yeah, they did, Pink Dahlia. And exactly, Apple, it was I. Yeah, hurry, take our rights, and protect us. So, I don't know how long this live stream has been. Okay, 45 minutes it took me to answer those questions. I think I did a pretty good job with that. So I just wanted to, like I said, answer some of those main questions, and most likely, they're mainly from my skeptics. So, I wanted to get those out of the way. Now, if you guys have any questions that you want to go ahead and ask me, I will try to answer them to the best of my ability. And if not, then we can end the stream and we'll do a part 2. And I want to go over these red flags and these characteristics that you guys can look out for in the future, like I mentioned a little bit ago, so that you can spot these in the future, so that you won't be a victim to this deception anymore. Oh yeah, they definitely were Hard Eyes sponsoring Lavelle. And follow the money, 100%. Halo S says, are they together somewhere, Chris and Shanann? And see, that's like one of those difficult questions for me to answer as well. And it kind of goes back to that first question of like, where are they? Like, I don't know where Nicole Kessinger is. All I know is that that's a common thing that I've noticed with these events, just like with the Las Vegas shooting. His mistress disappeared. And again, I won't get into the Las Vegas shooting, but that's another case that I followed from day one extensively. Not as much as the Watts case, but I definitely know a lot of information about that case. And so that's another one of those red flags where I was like, well, that's weird. Like, why am I seeing all these same characteristics? And even though like the Las Vegas shooting is a mass shooting and the Watts case is as a homicide or a familicide case, two totally different cases, both tragic. But I started, and that's how I started to, like I said at the beginning, I did not know that this case was orchestrated. I fully believed that it was real, that Chris Watts killed his entire family. But then I started to notice those red flags that I want to go over again with you guys in another live stream. I started to notice them, and I'm like, okay, well, this Stephen Paddock, who killed like 58 people in the biggest mass shooting in U.S. history, his girlfriend never was investigated. She was never interrogated. She was never given a polygraph test, and she was the closest person to this guy, right? who allegedly killed all these concert goers. And then I hear the same thing happens with Nicole Kessinger, and that's just one of the red flags. I'm like, Nicole Kessinger was never investigated. She was never treated as a suspect. She was never given a polygraph test, and she disappeared off of the face of the earth. Both of them disappeared. Never come out and give a statement, have never gone on any television shows like Dr. Phil, never given interviews, never written a book, right, about their experience. They both disappeared, and that's one of those red flags. I'm like, on top of many, many other red flags. And that's when I took a step back, and I'm like, there's something else that's going on with this case. Why am I seeing so many of the same red flags that I see in other orchestrated events? And that's what I want to try and, get you guys to get these characteristics to stick in your head so that you can look out for them in the future. Oh, and Halo, speaking of your question, your question reminded me of another question I get asked a lot is, are the families real? Are the Watts family a real family? Are the Ruseks a real family? And that's another question that I don't know. They could very well be real families. And that would only make it even more, buddy, yeah, that would make it even more believable if they were indeed real families. But I don't think, and it's people are so quick to be like, well, why would these families agree to it? And it goes back to that whole, I don't know why people agree to do the things they do. Maybe they were coerced into it. Maybe they don't know. Maybe the Watts are unwilling. I can't say the same for the Ruseks because I've seen them push multiple agendas and have motives for sure for this case. But I don't know if they are real families. But it wouldn't be difficult to find two families that would agree to do it, especially when these events, and especially the more sophisticated ones, more complex ones, they're planned out years in advance. And I know that somebody had a question recently in the comments, and they said, well, I lean kind of towards it being a psyop, but then the fact that there's so much documentation of this family's life, so all the way back from the girls being kids or like babies, and just everything else. But there's also a lot missing in there. Like, we didn't get the wedding photos until like Netflix released them. Where's your normal photos that you would see of your kids opening Christmas presents, dressed in Halloween costumes, Thanksgiving? We don't see any of those on Shanann's Facebook, even though there was so many videos and so many posts. I just don't see it, what I should see from like a normal like family. Like, where's all these special moments missing? All we see is her, Lavelle, and then the videos with Chris and the girls mainly, and her Thrive friends, right? But where's all the special moments, like the holidays and stuff like that? Or first day of school or whatever, It's just, and I hope that you guys can still hear me because I hope I'm still live because my video is making a loading thing. So anyway, this case doesn't have to be as complex as everyone might think, It's like, okay, yeah, so we got one picture of Chris from high school, big deal. I don't even know if Nicole Kessinger even went to the high school that she said. We don't have any information hardly of Nicole Kessinger. Same thing with Stephen Paddock's girlfriend. Very limited amount of information. Hey, Red Sky Black. Hey, Rodalie. Very limited information on these girlfriends. But we don't know if Nicole Kessinger, nobody's come out and has been able to prove that they know these people. I don't care how many channel creators talk to these family members, that it proves nothing to me. And that's like one of the biggest issues I have with this true crime community is that so many people are like, oh, we want to know, we want to get to the facts, we want to investigate, and we want to, we want to get justice for these victims. But you can't, a lot of this info, like 90%, I don't want to say like a specific percentage, but the majority of the information that comes with these true crime cases, especially these high profile ones, is all hearsay. It's all hearsay. We're simply believing what the government is telling us, what the families are telling us, what law enforcement is telling us. just because it comes from law enforcement or it comes from the government, it doesn't make it truthful. And I think that people are like, have a difficult time like coming to that or grasping that, I guess, or whatever. But it's like, so many people just believe everything they hear, and it blows my mind, especially when you're getting statements from supposedly Chris Watts. It's like, okay, let's think about this here. Like, you're believing something that a pathological supposedly murderer is saying, right? So why would you believe anything that comes out of that man's mouth? Why would you believe anything that comes out of Sherilyn Cato's mouth, the author that's, supposedly wrote the book with Chris Watts? She went into prison and talked to him, and she's still getting her information from Chris Watts, the liar. But everyone's like, oh, we want to hear what Sherilyn Cato has to say. We want to know what Chris Watts said because he's going to tell us the truth, right? No. Like, the majority of information on these cases is hearsay. And I'm still seeing, hey, Secret Weapon, that's okay. I'm glad you're here. I'm still seeing, hey, free speech. I'm still seeing these channel creators. It's driving me crazy. 3.5 years later, they are still posting and streaming the same body cam footage. The same footage from Chris Watts supposedly loading the bodies of how many times are people going to watch these videos? It's almost like it's an obsession. And I'm not surprised, because that's how these psychological operations work. People get pulled into them. If everybody knew that it was a psychological operation, I wouldn't have to be doing what I was doing. And it also wouldn't be a very good psychological operation, right? That's what makes them so great. Hey, Christy. So it's just, it blows my mind how many people are just so quick to believe everything they hear. And how many times, like I said, how many times do we have to go over these same body cam footage? 3.5 years later, you're not going to find anything new. All of the footage, the video footage, the audio footage, everything in this case is downgraded substantially. And it's done that way for a reason, so that we can't catch inconsistencies, like real inconsistencies. So we can't say, hey, that's not adding up. So people are watching that Chris Watts body cam, or the Nate's footage, the neighbor Nate's footage, over and over until they just start to see things that they believe is there. Or if their favorite channel creator is saying, hey, this is Nicole Kessinger in the driveway, and they sound convincing, then it must be Nicole Kessinger in the driveway. Or because they want Nicole Kessinger to be guilty so badly that their mind is going to put her there in that video footage, even though you cannot see anything on that grainy, poor quality video footage. And it drives me crazy, like to my core. But, and people don't want to hear what I have to say. People don't want to hear my theory. They want to hear that Nicole Kessinger's guilty, that she's going to pay, and they don't also want to know that they've been lied to. They don't want to know that they've been duped, and they also don't want to admit it. And that's what makes my job and what I do very difficult. Sorry, let me turn the chat back on here. I forgot. Oh, and the Pink Dahlia. I will be playing, speaking of 9/11, again, I just watched a documentary last night that was very interesting. If I can find it, I will be playing. I thought I had seen all of the 9/11 documentaries, but I will be, if I can find it, be playing it on my D Live. I obviously can't play it on here, on YouTube, but I will be streaming that on my D Live probably tomorrow if I can find it. It was very, very interesting. And then sometimes I'll get new people that'll come in and they'll say, like, well, just tell me your theory. Okay, why can't you just tell me your theory? It's like, I've put in over 3 years of this case. There's so much to it that it's impossible for me to just go over all that information for someone who has not watched any of my videos or any of my other live streams. If they would take the time to do that, then I would probably be a little bit more quick to want to answer their questions or their or they're being skeptic about it, right? But there's just so much to it, there's just way too much information to do that. I do think that Shanann and the girls are still alive. I do, yes. And that's another thing, is another question that I didn't really want to get into, because it's like, it's really walking on eggshells when I start talking about victims and there being no victims. That's okay. Hold on. LB. Oh, come on. After 3 years, you don't recognize that Nicole Kessinger leaving the house by now? Let's say it's Nicole Kessinger in the video footage, L, right? It proves nothing. It really, and it message deleted by Streamlabs. Okay, I don't know why Streamlabs deleted your message, Ella, but that video footage proves nothing. It really doesn't. So Nicole Kessinger's there. I still have all of my evidence and my information that I provided to support my theory. Oh, okay. Because she put in caps. Okay. Oh well. But oh yeah, okay. It was on caps. All right. It was meant to fracture our psyches and hit us emotionally and elicit patriotism. That lasted about a month or two for me. Then I started raising. Are you talking about 9/11 still, Pink Dahlia, or are you talking about Chris Watts? And so when you have a lack of evidence in a case, there's so much information, but there's so much not evidence that's there, if that makes sense. And it's not that I want to see autopsy photos of these victims. It's like, we want to know that they exist. And the reason why that they will fake a lot of times, like Chika said, they'll fake these victims, is because they don't want to have actual family members trying to get information from Michael Rourke, from whoever orchestrated these events, and say, hey, why are my loved ones no longer here? Why are they no longer on this earth? Why are there so many inconsistencies in your case, DA Rourke? But we're not seeing that from the Ruseks. We're not seeing it from the Watts. They're too busy talking to channel creators. The Ruseks are too busy causing division on social media, pushing their victim propaganda, right? If I were the Watts and I were the Ruseks, I would be like, DA Rourke, how did you not know that the girls were alive when they left the house? You tell us after the fact, after we agreed to not push for the death penalty, that our baby girls, our grandkids, were still alive? Like, to me, that's a huge discretion in the case, in Michael Rourke's case, and the Frederick Police Department. So I would be very worried about that. I would be like, are you sure you know what's going on in your own case? Hey, Autumn. I would, and so many inconsistencies in the case, and it's not like all of us in the true crime community, like, we don't know what we're doing, right? Or that we're just all idiots, and that we're just like, oh, whatever. We're crazy conspiracy theorists or whatnot. There's so many inconsistencies with this case. Why are the Ruseks too busy trying to convince us that there is no cover-up? If someone's sitting there saying there is no cover-up, you're crazy. And the Frederick Police Department and Michael Rourke did an amazing job on the case, even though there's so many red flags and inconsistencies. To me, that tells me that there's probably a cover-up or something else going on. That's the kind of stuff to look out for, is actions like that from the families. Why are they too busy trying to convince people on social media that DA Rourke did a great job and there's no cover-up or there's no conspiracy, instead of demanding answers from Michael Rourke as to why nothing in his investigation adds up, or the Frederick Police Department, and saying, why are Shanann and the girls no longer here? Why are our loved ones not here? And why does nothing add up? But no, Frankie Rusek and Frank Rusek and all these two families are too busy, talking to channel creators, causing division, causing distraction, steering people in the opposite direction of what I'm trying to show everybody, Keep people interested in the case, push their motives, push their agendas, instead of trying to figure out what happened to her family. And the first it was on Dr. Phil, it was like, oh, we think that Nicole Kessinger had something, the mistress had something to do with it. Then a couple months later, Frankie Rusek is saying, no, Nicole Kessinger had nothing to do with it. She's innocent. Well, you just said a couple months before that on Dr. Phil Rusek that you thought that it's all propaganda, and it's all just, there's so much to it. And I know that I'm probably getting a little bit worked up here, but it's like when people come into my chat like that and they don't even bother to, like, I feel like they don't even listen to what I'm saying sometimes. You know, it's like it just goes in one ear and out the other. If they would take the time, watch all the videos that I've made from, you don't have to watch all of them, just watch some of them. I've made so many videos, and it just took so much time to make those videos that I just finally started doing live streams to get all of this information out to everybody that I needed, that I felt was important. I mean, and the last thing I want to do is keep talking about this Watts case, but this is ridiculous. I mean, these other channel creators are literally milking this case for everything it has. I mean, again, how many times do we have to listen to Nicole Kessinger's interview? You can't solve a case with only part of the evidence, and we don't even know if that evidence is factual. I've heard channel creators say, oh, I get all of my facts from the discovery, and then they'll turn around and say, oh, Michael Rourke's a liar, and the DA, or I mean the Frederick Police Department are lying. There's too many inconsistencies in that discovery, but then they'll turn around and say, oh, I get all my facts from the discovery. Yeah, that's interesting too as well, Adam. I've looked into that extensively as well on the Google Maps thing, for sure. But bottom line, the reason why they will fake these deaths, it's a lot easier than having to, like, actually go and, like, kill all these victims. They don't need to do all that to push the motives and to push the propaganda onto people, or to make people believe that the case is real. And they definitely don't. A perfect example that I always use as to why they don't want to with these events, whether it be a false flag or a psyop, the reason why they don't want real victims a lot of the times, and sometimes they have to have real victims in order to push the motives or the agenda. Sometimes they do, unfortunately. But a lot of times they don't need to go through all that and have real victims to push it. But a perfect example is 9/11. You have those the wives of the firemen, right? Who made a big fuss, and they were, after NIST, they were after the government. They said, why are our husbands no longer here? Why are there so many red flags? Why are they dead? And they made just a huge fuss about it. And they don't want people like that and their families bringing and drawing more attention to a case and pointing out inconsistencies. They don't want people making a rise. They don't want to do that. But that's what I would expect to see from real families that lost real victims. That's what I would expect to see from families. Not how the Ruseks have acted, not how the Watts have acted. They're too busy trying to convince people that there's no cover-up or no conspiracy, instead of trying to figure out why there's so many inconsistencies in their own case and why Shanann and the girls are no longer here. And yes, Elle, I do apologize. I don't know why Streamlabs keeps doing that. I will turn that off. Yeah, exactly, Stephanie, too. And that's the thing as well. It's like all of this is used, all that the interviews, the body cam footage, that would have to be all used in a court of law. And when you release that much, like, information, you would think that would taint a juror or a jury, right? Like, it's still all evidence. And not only that, but you don't stop investigating a homicide investigation just because somebody pleads guilty, especially when there's so many inconsistencies, right? But there's a reason why so much information is released. Like, just like with the Gabby Petito case. It pulls people in. And what did everybody do with the Gabby Petito case? They were all surrounding their televisions. Like, what's going to happen? Is Brian going to be found? Is Gabby, where's Gabby? Dog the Bounty Hunter is on the case. John Walsh is on the case. And everybody was so fascinated and glued to their TVs. There's a reason for that. And even with the Gabby Petito case, nothing adds up. There's so many inconsistencies. And I could immediately tell, now knowing that they're doing this in the true crime community with these missing persons cases and these homicide cases, I can spot them so easily now. With the Chris Watts case, I didn't realize that they were doing it in the true crime community. I thought it was just terrorist attacks and school shootings and Capitol riots. Like, I didn't realize that they were doing it in true crime. But, like, the majority of anything you hear from the mainstream media is not true. And again, with that Smith Modernization Act, they can legally lie to us with no repercussions. And guess who's funding all of this? The FBI that's out looking for Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie, or all these officers that were paid to do this Watts case. The public is funding the lies. And don't even get me started on that Summer Wells case, because that case is a fucking, excuse my language, circus. And I can't believe how many people are just like drawn to it. It's insane. No, Autumn, I haven't. Yeah, Chica, and I'd like you to come on and we should cover the Kanika Jenkins case again. I don't know if I want to, because that case is pretty crazy as well. But that was, I couldn't keep up with that, and I've told you that before. But Kanika Jenkins was another one of those. And Al, the reason why you keep getting timed out is because of your caps. You have to turn your caps lock off. Wait, what did I say, babe? Oh, because I cursed? Oh no, I cursed. Yeah, Pink Dahlia, and that's another motive behind it that I've talked about, is like that people are so scared now because of this Watts case. It's like, oh, if Chris Watts can do something like this, if he can murder his entire family, this guy who nobody had anything bad to say about, great husband, great father, outstanding employee at his job, right? Nobody had anything bad to say about the guy. The families. But so if someone like Chris Watts, who shows no sign of any like past aggression or anything like that, if he can murder his entire family, then what's stopping my significant other or my boyfriend or somebody even close to me or anybody that I trust? What's stopping them from doing the same thing to me? That's another one of those fear-ridden, driven motives behind it. And so many people are like, why don't these cases add up? Like, as far as I know, I'm the only one that's like giving an explanation as to why they don't add up. All these other channel creators have theories. Theory after theory after theory. They've changed their theories. It's been 3 years now. I have never once changed my theory on this case. Because I was convinced. After seeing all those red flags that I talk to you about and tell you guys all the time. There's too many of them, and it supports a psyop in itself. But I'm the one that's saying, hey, this is why this doesn't add up. This is why Nicole Kessinger disappeared. This is why D.A. Rourke hasn't come out and answered any of these questions for us. They don't have to. And they're definitely not going to, because that would defeat the whole purpose of people trying to figure out what happened with this case and the whole social, experiment of it. Like, this is why this doesn't add up. This is why nobody's personal information in the case was redacted. This is why Madison Atkinson and Nicholas Atkinson didn't have their faces blurred out and have their personal information and their lives protected from the public, because they're actors. right? In a normal homicide case, you would not have, or any case for that matter, you would not, always, 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 minors need to be protected. So why was no one's personal information in this case protected? Because what would everybody have to go look up? We wouldn't be able to look up Nicole Kessinger. We wouldn't be able to look up her background information all in the true crime community and dig into her past. We wouldn't be able to look up Nicholas. We wouldn't be able to look up NA. We wouldn't be able to look up Troy McCoy, right? That would, if they redacted everyone's information like you're supposed to in a homicide case, right? We wouldn't have anything to do with this case. We wouldn't be able to go down rabbit holes that people have been going down for like over 3 years now. It's done that way on purpose. There's no harm to protect any of these people from because it's not real. Just because he's incarcerated, it doesn't mean that he can't do damage on the outside to any of these people that spoke out against him if Chris Watts was really in jail. He could use that against him. If he's really this like crazy monster psychotic person that killed his entire family, you think that all these people are going to want their personal information and all their interviews knowing what they said about him or whatever, or maybe being the possibility of why he's in jail now based off the official narrative? You think that that's really going to how things go down? No. But there's nothing to protect these family members from and these main characters in this case. Pink Dahlia, I think that the Alexis Sharkey case is one of those cases. I do believe that was orchestrated as well, but there's certain cases where they're going to get more attention than others, just based off of how they're put together. And I don't think that case caught as much attention as, maybe the Chris Watts case. But the majority, and I'll say it, the majority of these true crime cases are, in my opinion, fake crime cases. The ones that get all the mainstream media attention, where all the news outlets are discussing it, they're all pushing the same narrative, they are all done to sway opinions of the public and push multiple agendas, for sure. Hey, Victoria. Glad you made it. We're just actually finishing up, though. And I probably, when I made this live stream, I was like, maybe I shouldn't make it a Q&A because I'm probably going to get off track and I'm probably going to rant. And a lot of those first questions are going to take up a lot of it. But we'll do we'll do a part 2 of this for sure if you guys have any other questions. Yeah, immediately, Pink Dahlia, I started seeing the symbolism in the case and everything else, so, with that Alexis Sharkey case. Yeah, Halo, and that's the thing, too, is you will never know the truth. Like, I do. I don't have all the answers, but I know that it was orchestrated, so I'm not going to have to, wonder for the rest of my life what happened with this case, right? That's a good thing about, hey, Sophia, that's a great thing about being awake to these cases, is you're not going to be duped anymore. You're going to be able to spot them. You're not going to rack your brain, and I know that's a lot what the true crime community is about. It's about delving into these cases, but these cases were not meant to be solved, especially if you're actually dealing with an open and shut case like it should have been with the Watts case, that would be it. But that's the whole purpose of the psychological operation, is so that people go down the rabbit hole, so that people notice the inconsistencies. They cherry pick what they want us to see in the discovery. They only give us a limited amount what can push that narrative onto the public. That's why there's so much missing information. And you cannot, I don't care how many times you watch the body cam footage, or how many times you listen to the interviews, or how many times you go over the discovery, these other true crime creators and the people in true crime, they're never going to get all the answers. And Michael Rourke, the DA, and the Frederick Police Department are not going to tell you it. They're done. pushing their agenda. Now it's all completely on social media for whatever reason, because some channel creators still want to get the truth. They're consistent on getting the truth. They're determined to get the truth. Or because they're milking the case for everything it has. Or if they're controlled opposition and they are, trying to keep people focused on it and distract people and steer people in the opposite direction. I don't know. There's so many different aspects going on here as to why this case is still going on. Yeah, exactly, Chica. Chica said it much better than I did. They have controlled opposition on YouTube to push the official narrative. These people are paid to push the narrative and or misinformation or bullshit. Exactly. Take care, Secret Weapon. Thank you for coming. Yeah, more than likely, Chica, for sure. And I forgot to mention that earlier as well. They do probably sign NDAs. And that's with your typical crisis actors as well. Like in some of these other events, they'll sign NDAs so they don't speak out. And even if they did, let's say even if they wanted to be a whistleblower, and any of these crisis actors or whatever, if they wanted to speak out, how many people do you really think are going to believe them? They're probably going to say, oh, you're crazy. You're a crazy conspiracy theorist. What do you mean? There's just so many different reasons as to why people wouldn't speak out. But that being said, guys, I think I will end it, and I will do a part 2 again. I don't know what we'll cover. I don't know if I'll do just questions, Q&A, or if I'll do go over the red flags again. But we're gonna get to the bottom of this, and we're gonna get through to some more people for sure. It's my goal. So thank you everyone for being here, and thank you to Broken Dishes for becoming a member during this live stream. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate everyone else's support for being here. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next time.